Okay. Great. Well, the floor is yours for the next 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. And thank you. And good evening to all of you. I must say, all of a sudden, I'm craving an In-N-Out burger. Who doesn't like those, right? So my name's Robert Luna, and I'm running to be your LA County Sheriff. I would love to absolutely earn your support and endorsement. I'm running to restore public trust and reform the Sheriff's Department. I believe, and it's my personal opinion, that the current sheriff has created dysfunction and chaos, which puts our public safety at risk. And I just believe we can do much better. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm running. I am one of the only candidates in this race who actually doesn't come from the Sheriff's Department, meaning that I am an outside product. And I believe the Sheriff's Department needs so much change. Only somebody from the outside can accomplish the reform that needs to take place. As the Long Beach Police Chief for the last 7 years, I have led the second largest municipal police department in LA County, and I've been accountable to the public and have taken responsibilities for all the actions of the Long Beach Police Department. I have led the police department towards community-centered police policies and practices. And I have modeled, and the practices come from the Task Force on 21st Century Policing that President Obama created back in 2014. The Long Beach community has come together to support these policies, and I look forward to being able to implement all these policies throughout the entire county of Los Angeles. The most important part of being elected your sheriff is that you have to be able to listen and you have to be able to build relationships. That is what I am best at. That is exactly what I'm going to do from day one if I get elected. My 5 priorities is number 1 is to restore public trust in the office of the sheriff. Number 2 is to reform and modernize the Sheriff's Department, which we all know that needs to be done. Number 3 is to reduce violent crime. Number 4 is to address homelessness. And number 5 is to address employee and deputy well-being, which is very important. And that well-being part and the culture will also eradicate the gangs that you hear so much about in the Sheriff's Department. A little bit about my journey and my background. I grew up in East Los Angeles to an immigrant family. I was the oldest of 3. My father migrated here from Mexico. My mother, although born in Modesto, she was part of a large family that was farming through Michoacan, Mexico, all the way to the Oregon border. They didn't speak English. I had to do a lot of translation. I learned English when I went to school. And in East Los Angeles, in the unincorporated area of East Los Angeles, that's where I really saw a lot of inequity and really made me a champion for justice. And when I talk about relationship-based policing and policing communities of color, that's where I come from. That's who I am. That's what my goal is, and that's very, very important. I have a reputation for listening, problem solving, and being able to work in partnership with our community. If you look at or you speak to people who know me, they'll talk about my leadership, my principal leadership skills, and they'll talk about my temperament. And that's exactly what we need in the sheriff's office to turn things around. I stated earlier, I have the confidence of so many people, especially around Long Beach, and that support is growing. I am endorsed by my mayor, Robert Garcia. I am endorsed by Congressman Alan Lowenthal, Ricardo Lara, Senator Lena Gonzalez, and many other regional and state leaders because they know me, they've worked with me, and they think I can do a great job. The bottom line is, as the sheriff, service always needs to be respectful, empathetic, and constitutional. And I'm ready to move forward to change what's been happening the last 3 years in the sheriff's office, which is rather, again, my opinion, rather embarrassing for all of us. So with that, I'd like to leave the rest of the time, because I'm sure in anything having to do with policing, there's a lot of questions for me, and I look forward to answering all of them.
Thanks so much. So yeah, anyone has questions for Chief Luna, please raise your hands. Okay, Ronnie and or Tom.
Yeah, Long Beach is a very large city in the county. How do you feel the crimes have been reduced or gotten larger? How did you handle that?
Crime across the country, unfortunately, in the most major cities, it's starting to inch up. Long Beach was no different, but if you compare us to the city of Los Angeles or other cities around us, Long Beach fared very well. And I'm proud to say that when we had, whether it was murders or shootings or robberies that started to go up, we didn't overreact. We were effective and we were efficient, but mostly we were very strategic. Dealing with crime today, we can't forget the lessons from the past. We can't take steps backwards, have this belief that everyone needs to be in jail. Yes, we need to hold people accountable. But as a 21st century police chief in Long Beach, I believed in a data-driven strategies. I believed in doing things differently and working with partners so that we can solve a lot of these challenges that we have. And my body of work there for the last 7 years will speak for itself.
The very fact that the mayor endorsed you, that's pretty good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Pete Rockwell.
Yeah. Hi, Robert. I just wanted to ask you if you have an opinion, if you would like to say what you think of George Gascon, the DA.
I've known George for many years. I know there's a lot of controversy in LA County surrounding him, but here's a bottom line for me. You see our current sheriff trying to lead an effort to recall him. I don't believe in that. I believe if the voters think he's doing a good job or a bad job, let them decide what they're going to do. My job as a police official, as an elected sheriff, is to work with the government officials that we voted into office. I will look for solutions. Do I agree with everything this DA or a previous DA does? No. But when you're in government, you have an obligation to work in collaboration and in partnership to serve our community to its best. I don't want people to lose trust in their government. You will not see me publicly fighting with other government officials.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Bubba Fish.
Thanks, and thanks for coming to talk to us. You mentioned homelessness as one of the primary responsibilities of the job, and I was just curious what your thoughts are, especially considering, Villanueva, who you've, who you'd be following, has had a pretty aggressive relationship with unhoused folks. So, very curious what your thoughts are on solutions. Thanks.
Yeah, I may be the sheriff after him, but I'm not going to be following him or his lead. I don't, especially when it comes to homelessness, getting in front of a camera with the cowboy hat and moving a group of homeless people who need help from one place to the other is not solving a problem. What we've done in Long Beach, and we've been very successful, where the mayor and I have gone across the country to talk about what's worked in Long Beach, and that's strictly data-driven, figure out who is in the most need, and then you take a multidisciplinary approach with government and private entities, because homelessness is the problem of our lifetime. We have to fix this. I want to be on the right side of history, and there's a lot of work to be done, and the sheriff's office is going to be part of it. But my ego is not such that I have to tell all of you I'm solving this problem. What I'd like to do is stand up there with multiple partners and saying, guess what we did? We did this together. And that's the way you approach such a challenge like homelessness.
Thanks, Eric Fine.
Yes, the previous sheriff before Alex Villanueva was also a current at the time when he was elected, and now former police chief of Long Beach. And he was elected because he wasn't part of the in crowd of the sheriff's department. He was outside so he could fix the sheriff's department. Then we elected a sheriff who was still part of the sheriff's department. Now we have the problem again. What are you going to do that the former sheriff, whose name I forget, didn't do that you're going to do to help things go in order?
That's Jim McDonald,
Yeah.
who was the previous sheriff, and he came from LAPD,
Yeah.
and then he was the chief in Long Beach. I was his second in command. Jim McDonald and I are two different people, although I have a lot of respect for Jim. What you do is you have to lead from this moment on. You have to take lessons learned, what worked, what didn't, and figure out how to move forward. You lead by example. You bring in the best minds across the country, which, by the way, just aren't in policing, they're in academic world, and any experts who can help us solve a lot of the issues that we're facing here in LA County, and you move forward as a team. I've learned a lot from being around Jim McDonald. I've learned a lot from seeing what Villanueva is doing now. You learn good things, you learn bad things, you move forward, and you make this, the goal is to make this the best sheriff's department in the entire country. And I can do that.
All right, thank you.
Great. So I'm going to cut off the questions after Ji Young, just because the clock is ticking. So we have Danny, then Pam and Tom, then Ji Young, and I may sneak one in at the end. But Danny Young, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. You mentioned briefly that you're aware of the gangs in the sheriff department. And I'm curious what you know about them, like how familiar you are with them, and what you would be able to do to get rid of them.
I've talked to many people inside and outside the sheriff's department, including reading the Rand report thoroughly. And there's no ifs and buts about it. There is a serious problem there that needs to be dealt with. One, you have to acknowledge a problem exists. Two, you have to use every resource available to you. I don't have a problem going in there on day one and asking the FBI for help. I have an amazing relationship with the FBI or any other outside entity to come in and make sure that this is not occurring. The priority in law enforcement is public trust and legitimacy, and this absolutely nails everything against that. So from day one, I'm going to work with all of my partners to figure out how to do this with people inside the sheriff's department, people outside the sheriff's department, and the goal is we won't be talking about gangs in several years. Part of that strategy, and I'm sorry, I just have to say this really quick. I think there's a lot of mental well-being issues with the sheriff's department and the culture. That's why one of my priorities is deputy and employee wellness, because I want to look at the mental health. I want to get rid of the that feeling of that you can't get help. And I think these people are acting out in a bad way, and that needs to stop immediately.
Thank you.
Great. Pam and Tom?
Thank you. Now, I know that there are probably some different departments in the county than there are in the city of Long Beach, but I'm sure that you're aware that the sheriff is responsible for the lockups, and that within those lockups, which are very large institutions, there's a great deal of mental health issues. As a matter of fact, the sheriff is like the largest mental health provider in the county. Do you have any thoughts about reforming or what direction you can take in the prisons in terms of the inmates that need mental health?
I can't wait to get my hands on that challenge. I said earlier, I want to be on the right side of history. What an opportunity with the largest county jail system in the entire nation. Have we reached out to the federal government for grants when we're dealing with issues regarding mental illness or substance use? I think there are so many opportunities to work and think outside the box. I can just tell you this. It is very, very apparent to me that what we have been doing is not working. We have consent decrees in the jail mandating certain things. We have to do better. We have to let people into the jail. We have to let the experts in, and then we have to report out to the community. There's a lot of people asking me, why can't we go in and go walk around the jail? And I'm talking about reasonable people who want to report out. That has to happen. We can't continue to have this black box because then we can't get the help that we need for the people in custody who really need the help.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ji Young.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. You and I have actually spoken, and I'm wondering why you made the decision for the Long Beach Police Department to cooperate with ICE. And the second question is, when we spoke, you said that that you don't support immediate reallocation of funds to mental health services, unarmed crisis response, drug rehabilitation, those kinds of services that we really need. And I'm wondering, if you still feel that way.
I apologize because I heard some of what you said. You weren't coming across clear, but let me, if I didn't answer something you asked, you said something about ICE.
Oh, I'll sorry, I'll say it again. I'm asking why you, as chief of the Long Beach Police Department, made the decision to cooperate with ICE. And the second question is, when we spoke on the phone, you had said that you do not support immediate reallocation of funds, of some, sheriff funds to mental health services, drug rehabilitation, unarmed crisis response. And I'm wondering if you still feel that way, because I don't, it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing, where if there's no reallocation of funds, then where are the funds for those essential services going to come from?
Well, thank you for the questions. And it's a great opportunity for me to clarify. One, as a Long Beach police chief, I never cooperated with ICE. There was a story out there where one employee, an analyst, did a mouse click, made an error that we ended up correcting. You got to understand something, that my mother, who was born here, was detained by ICE. That's my history. That's my background. I do not believe in any civil detentions by ICE in any manner. That's not the job of policing. I never have felt that way. So I don't know where that comes from about me cooperating with ICE. I know there's a story out there, but those aren't the facts. And then the second part, in regards to the conversation, I think we were talking about defunding the police. And my perspective on that is, I believe police are doing so much work that doesn't need to be done by the police. And when we discussed it, my argument was, you can't shut off funding for police tomorrow, because who's going to respond to the mental illness calls or other calls within a week? So my position is that we absolutely need to get there. And actually, a lot of the work I've done in Long Beach with our health department, our fire department, and other entities, we've been working towards that. But we have to put together a program that prioritizes the safety of the people we're responding to. And you can't do that overnight. So I think my statement was that let's build the capacity to get there. And we absolutely can. I have the desire and the will to change. And you'll see that during my history as a Long Beach police chief, I was very willing to listen, change, and evolve. And we made a lot of reforms, just like the ones you're mentioning right now. I wish I had more time to clarify that, because in 2 minutes, you really can't. But all I have to ask all of you is, please do your research on me. Look at what I've done. Don't read one article and then it's a snapshot. You got to talk to my mayor, my city council members, the community members I was working with in Long Beach to find out how Robert Luna works with the community and how reform-minded and 21st century wise I think. I'm very forward thinking in the way policing should be in the next several years. Thank you.
So I'll ask a sort of quick closing question, which is I think that this came up at the sheriff candidate debate. Would you support the legal changes required to allow the Board of Supervisors to impeach the sheriff?
I'd have to seriously consider that. Right now, the way this sheriff's behaving, it seems like we have no other choice. But that deals with issues of trust with that individual. So what if you get somebody in there who cooperates, who listens to their community, who works with everybody? Is that something we should still move towards? You know, maybe this guy has done so much damage that we still need to do that. So I am absolutely open to listening to other options that work for this community. But at the end of the day, if this community says that's what they want, my job is to do what the will of the people want to do. And as your sheriff, that's the direction I'm going to go, if that's what the people want.
Okay, well, thanks so much for coming to visit us, and you're welcome to hang out and listen to the others. We'll have this video online in a few days, and I'll try to notify your campaign when it's ready in case you want to use it in some way. So we can move on to our third guest, who's Mark Levine.
And as he's getting ready, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for your civic engagement. Things don't get better if people like yourselves aren't doing what we're doing. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief. Mark, are you ready?